Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be going through the changelogs that have happened over the last week for War Thunder, and also a little bit of news before we get started. The first bit of news is it's looking like the Battle Pass will be out this week. There's been a bunch of changes to it in the files. They've also removed the War Bond shop from the game, and as you remember, they are tying in some of the War Bond stuff, such as the way you get War Bonds into the Battle Pass, so my guess is it'll come back all together in one big piece. On top of this as well, we obviously have the Twitch drops going on. The last weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I streamed about 12 hours on each of the days. I enjoyed it quite a lot. It was nice to have a bunch of conversations and interesting stuff, so therefore we will be continuing with that. So if you're interested in the next set of Twitch drops, they'll be available on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. I'll be streaming around about 6:30 AM PST for 12 hours on each of the days, so make sure to check out the Twitch channel and get yourself some rewards. Now, let's get into the changelogs themselves. The first one is update 2.1.0.50, and this is mainly for Xbox, and what they did is the SK60B separate launch for the unguided rockets has been added, so therefore, you can hit more targets. Generally, when it comes to the unguided rockets, I don't really know why you would use them over the other ideas which are there. The AGMs are incredibly good at being able to either kill aircraft or kill ground vehicles because it has that proximity fuse, and then the 30mm are also insanely good in aerialistic and also ground. The SK60B, in my opinion, should lose its airspawn. It is an incredibly good vehicle for what it is. I don't think it should be left to its own devices for too much longer. The Panzer IV-J, the hull damage model has been corrected, meaning that they've added it back in. If you didn't know, the Panzer IV-J, along with the Sherman, one of the 76 variants, lost parts of their armor. The Sherman lost its mantlet, and the Panzer IV-J lost its hull armor. So now, at least it's back, so you can't just machine gun the crew. The high explosive effect of 165 and 184mm HE shells, so such as stuff like the Barn and the Centurion Avery, have been fixed. So they do a ton of damage now compared to before, which was very, very minor, so that is obviously very good. The tracers when hitting elements of the HVM Starstreak missile have been added. Guidance when shooting at targets moving at angular velocity relative to the launcher has been improved. That's good. It was kind of hard to track where your missiles were going when it came to the Starstreak, so I think that's overall very good. One of the issues, though, is still with a lot of SPAAs, is a lot of the time the tracers will lag behind the actual shells themselves, meaning that you don't know you're getting shot at until you're already dead. This happens a lot with stuff like the M163 and also a lot of the 8.0 fast-firing AAs, and it is kind of annoying to deal with from a CAS point of view, so hopefully that gets fixed. A bug when aiming air-to-air heat-seeking missiles has been fixed. In some cases, the missile did not guide accurately enough to the target. Yep, that's definitely the case. I've just had missiles which have just wandered off and decided that they were not interested in taking part of the battlefield. Hopefully that will fix that problem. The Key 61-2, a bug leading to a lower stall speed relative to the vehicle passport, has been fixed. That's great. More, realistic changes is always good. The M4A3 376W, the armor model of the gun mantler, has been fixed. We talked about that before with the Panzer IV-J. The AK-1B, a mismatch of the aircraft model, has been fixed. Good stuff. They've also changed a bunch of other things, so the mechanics of the new HUD markers for capture points has been changed. The altitude of the marker above the surface has been changed from 5 to 10 meters. They've added transparency to the marker in the distance text. This is obviously very good. Where markers overlap each other, the markers of more distant capture points become even more transparent, and the distance to them will be hidden. Nice, so basically just giving improved visibility to people who are playing ground. One of the major issues I personally have with ground right now is I've added in these dawn-dusk maps, and it just makes it incredibly hard to see. It's pretty much adding night battles to even lower BRs than before, and my personal opinion when it comes to night battles is they should just be removed from the game. If it was put in any other game in history, whether it be a MOBA, whether it be an FPS, where you would get a random chance of not being able to see, I feel like a lot of people people would be annoyed, and at least right now, it's nice to see that this problem is going to affect more of the community who plays the game, therefore there'll be more outcry about it. A variant of a bomber with a nuclear weapon has been added to air events and ground battles at a BR of 6.0 to 7.0. This option is already available in battles with a BR of 7.3 or higher. In order to use it, you need to destroy 20 enemy players' controlled vehicles in a single battle. So basically in arcade, if you get 20 kills, you're able to set off a nuke and win the match. Very similar to other FPS games. It's a nice little touch, nice little nod to the game. The T-72AV has also been given the 3BM42 shell now, and that has made it incredibly powerful. It's basically the same shell that the T-72B and the T-64B use at 9.7. So now it has Gen 2 thermals in the commanders and gunners. It has the mobility of the T-72, has really terrible armor, but it does have the second best round that the Soviets use around those BRs. We'll have to see if that's up to BR over time. I think I'm not entirely sure about it. It's definitely not as strong as something like the Harrier GR1, which of course has been pumped up to 9.7, which was definitely required, but it's definitely a conversation to have. There was new camos added to the AK-38, and then also air-to-air missiles, a bug where in rare cases the missile deflection incline level might have an erroneous effect on the accuracy of the missile's guidance has been fixed, which is obviously good. They've also changed a bunch of interface stuff as well. The vehicle menu is now available with the right mouse button, so they've just fixed what used to be there before. A bug that stopped decal turning with a gamepad in the customization menu has been fixed. Good. A bug that showed the torpedo travel depth option for all naval vessels has been fixed. This option is now only available to torpedo-equipped vessels. Obviously good. And a bug which closed the controls menu instead of switching to simplified controls has been fixed. That would have been a bit of a pain if that was affected you. Then aircraft and helicopter models and stuff. The T2 incorrect positioning of the gun pod weaponry has been changed with the AIM-9Es and the 5500s, obviously always good. The H-16 guidance angle of the rear lower defensive turret has been fixed. It's been corrected to 75 degrees, so that thing has a ridiculous coverage now on that bottom gun, so you might have to be a little bit more careful when approaching those things from the bottom. The MB-175T, a bug where the MG-151 offensive cannons were not classified as large caliber weapons, has been fixed. So now if you want to switch between which ones to use, whether primary or secondary, that's easier to do. The flight model changes. The Ju-88A4 and C6, a bug with underestimated engines, running time at 100% throttle position has been fixed. That's good. The CPU load has been reduced on sound. Good. I haven't had any crashes of the game or the PC since the first 2 days of the update. I see this as, at least for me, a fixed issue, even though it did affect me for quite a long time. Sound events for artillery shell explosions have been reworked, and more pronounced sound for the engine turbocharger has been added to the Leopard 2 series of tanks. It definitely sounds quite aggressive nowadays. Then you have 2.1.0.52, and this one, a bug which would cause naval vessel crews to be blocked in battle, has been fixed. That was obviously a bit of a problem. And then also a bug which would cause the decals of one vehicle in a player's vehicle setup to appear on another vehicle from the same setup has been fixed. Once again, it's nice to see that these things are being made, so, you know, they can actually fix it. And then, of course, you know, you have all the changes from the other one. This was the Xbox edition, this was the PC edition. Then you have 2.1.0.60. What this is a bug has been fixed with the incorrect application of wages for ranks 1 and 2 in naval battles. Now, random aircraft added to slots automatically won't specify the rank of units required in the wages terms. A bug with missed hit effects on destroyed ground vehicles has been fixed, which is obviously very good, and they've also changed the invite a friend system. So now your friends rank 2 in aviation ground forces or rank 3 in naval forces is required to receive the first award. Your friends rank 3 in aviation or ground forces or rank 4 in naval forces is required to receive the second award. The award for achieving your friends rank 3 in aviation and ground forces or rank 4 in naval forces has been changed from 500 GE to 100 GE and 300,000 Silver Lions. So basically now you get less reward for inviting your friends into the game. Now, there are two ways to look at this. The first bit, when it comes to the naval forces stuff, that makes sense to me because of the fact that they've changed how naval forces work. So therefore, therefore they have to move around when you get each award. So that isn't an issue. When it comes to the second part, though, there is a few issues. The first thing to think about is the fact that they've reduced the reward. Therefore, there is less incentive to try and get your friends into the game. This is obviously a negative for War Thunder in general, but at the same time, you still get something, which, is better than nothing. The other thing to think about is people who abuse this system. So what you do is you create an alt account, you use the code, and therefore you bump up your main account. You do this a bunch of times, and you get a bunch of free GE, and you get a bunch of free stuff by being able to grind easily into rank 3 aviation or rank 4 naval forces with that alt account, therefore boosting your central account, giving yourself what is seen as free GE. Now, the way to actually fix this issue is to actually enforce one of their terms of service, which has been around for a very long time, and as it seems to never be enforced when it comes to War Thunder, it's one of the most annoying things, at least to me personally, because I've actually been in situations where I've had to, explain people this. You are not allowed to have more than one account in War Thunder. You are not allowed to have alt accounts. There are many public statements, and also in their terms of service, it talks about the fact that you are not allowed multiple accounts from a single individual. And this is a rule that is never enforced in War Thunder, and I even had a point. So when I was doing some giveaways earlier on in the year, one of the things that I had to do, because there was a restriction put on my account for giveaways, because I'd basically given away so much stuff in the year, they didn't want basically to be, I'm guessing it's like a failsafe in there, so you don't, people don't like nick credit cards and then just basically boost other accounts through it. And I hit this threshold, and I was trying to get it sorted out, and the only way that I was told that it could be sorted out was by buying like $150 worth off the Gaijin store in order to gift, people, 2,000 to 2,500 GE, and that to me was ridiculous. And after talking to a Gaijin employee about this, they said to me that, oh, well, why don't you just do it through an alt account? And I had to remind them that it's against their terms of service to use alt accounts. That is how ridiculous this whole situation is when it comes to alt accounts. Alt accounts are terrible for the game, and they are constantly abused when it comes to stuff like squadron battles, when it comes to stuff like the competitive parts of the game, and also when it comes to other parts of the game. Anything that is to do with the ranking system, they will be abused, especially when it comes to market stuff as well. Now that we have the Gaijin market, you can feed everything into one account. It's absolutely disgusting, and it needs to be stamped down upon. So instead of doing stuff like this to try and prevent it, how about you actually create a system that stops people using alt accounts, especially the ones that you already know exist, because it is literally against your terms of service. Just enforce them, please. Then we've got 2.1.0.65. A bunch of sound changes. A bug has been fixed in the missing sound and visual effects of hits on the destruction of players' ground vehicles. A bug has been fixed with missing sound and visual of hits on enemy and allied vehicle hits on enemy allied ground vehicles. That is a hell of a mouthful. A bug that would cause a bomb flight sound to play for listeners on the ground immediately after a drop, regardless of drop height. Now bomb starts to sound a distance of about 500 meters. I definitely ran into that bug quite a lot, actually. It sounded really weird. Engine over throttle sounds on ground vehicles have become shorter. They are quieter on vehicle stop and louder when the vehicle starts moving. Diesel engines on the Leopard 2, Leclerc, T90A, Type 90, and T64 now have a turbocharged turbocharger whistling sound. The turbocharger layer has also been added to the overthrottle sounds, and then the turbine sounds for turbine engines of player ground vehicles, the Abrams T80 and Leclerc, have been changed in spectral composition to reduce possible discomfort during longer playtimes. That's obviously positive. The main sound thing I would like fixed, which I haven't seen mentioned, is the silent guns. One of the problems that I have against like the new T72AV is that half the time the gun just will not make a sound. And you just get shot. I don't know whether that's to do with the top part here, where it comes to this, where you get shot and you don't even know that you got shot. But with the T72AV and the T90 as well, that happens way too often, where they are just silent killers. I do not hear anything from them, and hopefully that has been fixed. The fleet characteristics, damage model, and weaponry changes. So blue water torpedo reload time for naval AB has been increased to 120 seconds. I'm guessing this is to reduce torpedo spam, especially with certain nations like Japan, which have obviously the long lancers. Mine lifetime has been increased to 180 to 240. This is positive. Actually makes mines a little bit more useful instead of a gimmick. Hopefully they increase it even more to make them a little bit more useful. The Sverdlov, a bug has been fixed with main caliber gun mantlets and middle distances. Not entirely sure what that means, but that's good. The exchange tab has been added to the workshop for the new power trophy items. Oh yeah, they added in a new box with a bunch of new camouflages for update new power. A lot of them look really nice. Definitely would say worth a look. The IPM-1, an issue with incorrect turret armor resistance in relation to the info card, has been fixed, so the IPM-1 now has its turret back when it didn't before. And then they changed a bunch of Hullbreak stuff. Now, I'm not going to list out all of these vehicles, but understand that Hullbreak has been completely changed when it comes to kinetic rounds. So therefore, stuff like AP, APFSDS, APDS, anything with AP in it and not HE in it. And basically, what has happened here is they've shifted that kinetic rounds do a lot less damage, or do not have the ability to Hullbreak a lot of vehicles when it comes to either hitting their hulls or hitting their turrets. This means that when you shoot some lightly armored vehicles, understand that the shot will not always actually kill it. I've had a lot of situations with when I was grinding out the Type 87F that shooting stuff like shulkers, and it just not, it just like hitting an engine and nothing else. So you may have to change how you approach a lot of these vehicles, and it also gives a large buff to a lot of these vehicles, especially stuff like the BMP, the PTZ, the Baglet, stuff which are light tanks, which can now tank a shell, where before they weren't able to. It's going to definitely increase how good they are. Then we have 2.1.0.72, and this had some sound changes once again. A bug with missing blast effects and a statistics window in the replay of a session with nuclear blast has been fixed. Well, that's good. Game client stability has been improved. Some potential crash causes have been fixed. Yeah, as I said, the last week I haven't had any problems with crashing, but the first few days of the update, it was even crashing my Streamlabs, weirdly enough, so that was a bit of a problem. The sound, once again, the issue with playback of engine overthrottle on opposing allied ground vehicles. Overthrottle sounds now play only when the player actually presses the throttle pedal. The T72B3 now has the B92 engine sound, which is the same as the T90 after mastering the engine modification, so it does actually change, which is really nice now. The bomb drop sound has been corrected for players in ground vehicles. So once again, we're correcting the bomb drop sound, which was supposed to be corrected before. Seems a bit odd to me. Diesel turbocharger and turbine engine sounds have been slightly corrected for ground vehicles, and the Leclerc engine sound has more sound for a turbine and less sound for a turbocharger. So we'll have to see how that works. And then the server update for today, they have added in the A4E Early Squadron vehicle. It is now available to be researched and purchased to all players. What'll be interesting to see with this thing is, since this is the early version, will they add in a late version? And the late version should have some better avionics and also probably a ballistic computer. So we'll have to see what they decide to do with it. They've also changed some of the I-185s. Airstream swirl around stabilizers has been specified. The cable control on the ailerons and elevators has been replaced with tubular rods. Wave drag resistance increased due to the thinner profile. Stalling angles have been improved with flaps retracted due to wider wing slats, and engine inertia and momentum have been reduced. Landing roll without brakes has also been specified. So we'll see what that actually means for the I-185. The main issue with it is the tail locks up at specific speeds, and those specific speeds you do have to be at that BR to be able to deal with certain threats. So that makes the I-185 kind of annoying to play. Reminds me of a lot of people complaining about the Scimitar when its rudder would basically turn off at certain speeds. The I-185, the whole tail just decides that it's going to turn off. The MiG-3 All-Series Airstream swirl around stabilizers has been specified once again. The nosing over probability has been reduced significantly with full fuel load, and increased resistance on fully extended flaps across their surface. So that just means that the flaps are going to be way more useful now, and you're going to cut speed a lot quicker if you decide to use them. The TAR 152C, the brake effectiveness has been improved. The nosing over probability has been reduced significantly. That's kind of interesting. I'm guessing it means that you won't find a penny too many times while playing stuff. But yeah, those are the changes for the last week or so. A lot of good stuff, and hopefully the game is in a much more stable condition now compared to before. I'm hoping for the best, since at least for me, it's been working pretty well this last week. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Elove Goat, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez B. Young, and also Hans Vergellen, Sebastian Mizon, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.